Hey, business building warrior. This is Jim, host of the Silent Sales Machine Radio podcast that continues to grow. We're hitting new records. We hit a record 30,000 downloads on iTunes in a single week recently, thanks to you spreading the word. As always, we continue to have a $0 marketing budget for this program. So far, we haven't spent any money marketing this show. It just continues to grow by word of mouth. We may spend money at some point. We just haven't done it yet, haven't needed to. We keep running into such great people organically, friends telling friends. And if that's you, thank you for spreading the word. If you're new around here, welcome to another great episode. I say this frequently, but it's true today as it is every time I say it. You're in for a real treat today. I've got some repeat guests joining us very soon, talking about Brian and Robin Olson. They're coaching leaders in our community, meaning they've got a team of coaches that work under them. We've got a handful of coaching leaders, each with a team of coaches. We've got about 60 coaches total. All of those coaches have this in common, if you weren't aware. They've all been through the Proven Amazon course. They've built a beautiful business that we're excited to talk about with them at any given time. They're our trainers, our coaches, our content creators, kind of the same group of people because they've succeeded. They've got the proof. And the thing that our coaches have on top of all of that is they've got a teacher's heart, meaning they just love answering questions, helping other sellers succeed using the strategies that we teach here. So that's what we're going to talk about today with Brian and Robin Olson. We're going to spend some time on how their business has grown and changed, how they've automated and outsourced their business to the point where they're free to pour time into creative activities. They're working on their business instead of working in their business. I'll describe that. We talk a little bit today about the Kickstart program that Robin's been heading up for a few months now for us. That's all the new Proven Amazon course students that come into our community who have basic newbie questions. Maybe they're not even set up on Amazon yet. They haven't made that first sale yet. They've got all those questions that new sellers have. For just a few dollars, you can get into a Kickstart group. It's online, small group training with Robin, who you're about to meet. And if you want information on that, you can contact our support team. Go to silentjimdotcom and you will see a link to our support team. You can ask them about the Kickstart program for Proven Amazon course students. They'll get you taken care of there. Again, just a few dollars to do that if you'd like. You have to be a Proven Amazon course student to do it, however. The other thing we talk about today is something we're perhaps the most excited about, at least I was on today's program, the new advanced Keepa training that has just been launched with Brian and Robin. Now, Brian did an advanced Keepa training course several months ago that was wildly popular. A lot of people jumped in and saw that as a pivot point for their business where they were finally beginning to use Keepa, which is a tool I'll tell you more about in just a moment if you don't know what that is. It's a software tool. But they're using Keepa to find huge opportunity on Amazon in the arena of REPLENS. What that means is the Keepa software digs into Amazon in a way that no other software tool does and helps expose those underserved listings that you can sell against and build a great business. So that advanced Keepa sourcing module, it's included in the Proven Amazon course now, a collection of modules. It's one of many. Well, we've got part 2 now, and they've just finished it, and it's now launched at provenamazoncourse.com/Keepa. We spent a significant amount of time today talking about that new course as well. Now, if you don't know what Keepa is, rather than going into a detailed explanation now, you really need to go listen to podcast episode 369. Keepa is a tool that costs you a few dollars per month. It's the tool that's behind, literally, without exception, every REPLENS seller success story in our community for the past several years. And you've heard hundreds of those episodes on this show. That's the tool you hear about every time. I don't even use an affiliate link when I talk about Keepa because I don't want people thinking that we're just promoting it so we can make an affiliate commission. I'm telling you, go get Keepa, pay a few dollars per month. That tool does things that even the most expensive $50 and $100 and $500 a month tools can't do unless they've integrated and paid to integrate Keepa into the tool. So for a few dollars a month, you can get the power of some of those most powerful tools. And then you can begin finding those underserved ASINs, the way that we're going to talk to our guests today in just a moment. So I think that's enough of an introduction for now. one final reminder on a couple links of interest that you can find in the show notes. As always, anything we talk about today, these links will be in the show notes. The Keepa episode, that's podcast episode 369 at silentjimdotcom, 369. We've also spent a bit of time today talking, especially with Robin. She just loved our live event. We've got another one coming up July of 2023. Theprovenconference.com has all the details as they become available. Get over there. And then finally, the new Keepa course, provenamazoncourse.com/Keepa. That's a link to the new Keepa training course that snag it. It's ridiculously underpriced. It will completely change the way that you sell on Amazon based on the REPLENS system that you've heard us talk about so much here. And with that long introduction, let's jump over and get my good friends, Brian and Robin Olson, on the line. Enjoy. Brian and Robin, welcome back. Good to have you guys here.
Thanks, Jim.
So great to be here.
Happy to be back. Yeah.
Good to see you guys. You've stepped into some new leadership roles around here, as I just mentioned, and I'm just excited to see what you've been up to. You know, we connect often, but there's still so many things going on. So fill me in, fill the listeners in. What's happened since last we heard from you? And of course, as a reminder, I'll have a link to the last time that we had these guys on the show, so you can kind of go back and see the history as well. But let's take it away.
Okay, great. Well, it's been about a year, I think, since we were on last.
Yeah.
And little did we know, or even, well, here's a little story. Before we were on the very first podcast, we were, I'm not sure we shared this the first time around, but we used to sit out on our patio and have a little mock interview with each other, pretending we were on the podcast. And this was like back in 2020.
Really?
And so
it was a goal of ours to be asked to be on the podcast. So we
just wanted to make enough of a mess that we could come on and be guests, right?
Right.
And so here we are. We couldn't have even envisioned we'd be back a third time. So we just want to say thanks for having us. Yeah. We're happy to be the team here.
Truly a pleasure. I mean, that's part of the most rewarding, and you guys are experiencing that now, being on the leadership team. You know, it's rewarding to have a new best sales day or to find a handful of new successful profitable products. But when you can pour that into someone else and then see them start to emerge as a leader themselves and kind of start supporting the infrastructure of this community, there's nothing more rewarding than that. So to whatever degree you guys are grateful, I have that times 10 gratitude for you guys, because it's just such a pleasure to work with you. You create such great content, provide such great leadership. You've made some great friends in this community. Many, many stories that we could share and tell at this point. But where do you guys want to go from here? I'm just looking forward to hanging out with you guys a bit today.
Well, I think we'll share a little bit about what our business looked like in 2022 and kind of how that went. And we created some new content, became coaching team leads. Robin's leading the Kickstart Bootcamp. And there's a lot going on right now. So good. Just circling back to early 22 and jump in anytime. So earlier in 22, we made a couple of trips to, we went to Florida with some of our mastermind friends, and we went to Las Vegas for the, what was it called, Jim? The White Label Conference.
White Label. That's right.
Yeah,
you guys were there with us for that. All right.
You and some other team members out there, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And then we spoke at the Proven Conference in August.
That was so much
awesome.
fun.
Yeah, we had a blast. I can't tell you how much fun we had doing that. And then, I think it was when we were in Vegas, somebody said while we were at a dinner, or somebody said, "Man, you guys should really make more content around that, around Keepa. There's so much more there." And we're like, "Well, you're right. There is."
There really is.
I think at the time we met, I was like, I think we could probably come up with 4 or 5 more ways to source some content using Keepa Advanced Sourcing. And we'll share a little bit of this later on, but now we got 9. So in addition to the one that we already
and the great idea is just keep floating. It's such a powerful tool. And you guys have kind of become the face of creative uses of Keepa to find REPLENS in the community. And you just keep coming up with great creative ideas. And as those ideas float, we kind of document and put a process to them so we can easily then teach them to others. And that first advanced Keepa training course, that it was primarily you that did the content, wasn't it, Brian, for that one?
At the time, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we've just heard from so many people. It's now a module included in the Proven Amazon course. We've just heard from so many people that say, that was the content that was my tipping point. The light bulb came on. It started making sense. I started finding replens everywhere. It was so frustrating to hear people say that before I took that course. And now after that course, I'm not annoyed by it anymore. I'm one of the people saying that now. So it was a great addition to the family of content that we have. So thanks again for that. But yeah, I'm excited. As you said, we'll get into it later, but the advanced Keepa sourcing modules just keep coming. We've got another great one coming soon, and we'll fill people in on that. And it's in the show notes as well, if you want to skip to the good part as a listener. But I'm curious, Robin, I just heard you kind of mention the August conference, and as here we are, January 2023. That was a few months back, but you really lit up when you said that. Like, talk me through, what was it like for you? I know it was a great experience for virtually everyone who attended, had great things to say, but take me back through some memories of that event. You seem to really light up.
It was a great conference, Jim, and we enjoyed so much getting to meet in person the people that we had talked to, only online. We actually met some people from our mastermind that lived outside the country that happened to be there. We had such a good time, but I'll tell you what, this was the first time that we had the opportunity to speak together. We've both had occasion in business to speak separately. This is the first time we've had a chance to speak together. And it was so much fun. It was so much more rewarding than I had anticipated. And I thought it went pretty well. And we had a lot of fun. And I felt like everybody had a lot of fun while, in our sessions and stuff. So yeah, that's what it was about. We just had such a great time doing that. And we're looking forward to doing more of that every chance we get.
Yeah. And we were talking about our upcoming July 2023 event. For those who don't know, theprovenconference.com, July 6th through 8th. We'll announce the city soon, but we were talking about that with you guys just a while back, and like, hey, Jim, do you need us there this year? And I'm like, you guys have no choice. You are coming. You're one of those people where, like, if I have to drive to your house and like take you guys by force, you will be there presenting.
Not have to do that. Yeah. We're happy to do it.
Yeah, you guys did such a great job, such great feedback from your sessions last year. And I always just think of the two of you as kind of like, buy one, get one. Like, I've never even imagined you guys off doing your separate business things. Like, that's even weird for me to even think about, like, oh yeah, these two probably do things separately from time to time. Because every time I encounter one of you, the other one's there, it's kind of like Larry and Sue, the other coaching directors. I think of them as kind of like one entity, like you guys don't have separate lives ever on anything, right?
Not anymore.
I love that you're able to do this together. And I do remember the excitement that you guys had that first, even the nervous excitement, the first time you guys were on the podcast. I think we're like sitting in your kitchen or something, wasn't it? If I remember right. Something like that.
At that time, we had our desk set up kind of in the living room kitchen.
Yeah, like right in the middle of your house kind of thing.
Yeah, it was in the middle.
Just a great interview. I can't wait for people to kind of go back and see that leadership journey, because I say all the time on this show, like it is our intention to turn these newbies into success stories who become leaders, who become coaches, who become coaching directors eventually, if that's the trajectory that makes sense for your life. But we've seen it over and over again, and I love seeing that trajectory. So it's a pleasure working with you guys. But what else comes to mind as for the topics we've talked about so far before we kind of move into some updates? I wouldn't mind hearing how your business is going and maybe some perspectives on some coaching students. Where do you want to go from here?
Sure. Well, I'll give you a little bit of background on the business. So the last 3 years, we're approaching $1.5 million in total sales, which is for us something I think just totally blows our minds. The fiscal year 2022, not our best year, but it was still a great year. It afforded us the ability to do a lot of things that we, think outside the box. Just have some time to think creatively. I mean, one of the reasons this Keepa creative, the creative sourcing using Keepa came about was because we had time back in our lives, right? And I would say, even though it wasn't our highest revenue year, it was also the year that we put the least amount of our personal time into the business. And so just having some of that ability, get some of your life back, right, is what this business has afforded us to do. And so we're still mid six figures. We're going to make a push at some point. We haven't put any date on paper yet, which we need to do because we know how important that is. Put a date on paper that we're going to achieve, a certain thing. And I tell a story about that in that first podcast. But so we're somewhere around 35% net ROI, and we're completely outsourced still in our business today. I think we would have had a better year this year, top line sales wise, if we hadn't run into some
supply chain
issues with our private label.
Yeah.
And I'll just say this is a shout out to the REPLENS part of our business, which is, thank goodness, that by itself does pretty consistent. So when something went a little sideways with our private label, we still could lean on the REPLENS side. And these things happen, right? The supply chain issues. Thankfully, we can still be pretty nimble and spin up new listings. When we need to. It takes sometimes takes a little while for them to catch on and get some traction. But we sell a lot of variety packs of snacks, basically. And one of the 5 flavors of the snack box that we were selling was discontinued by the manufacturer. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, it's like this ASIN that was selling 600 units a month, it's gone. Like you're
and you can't change a bundle. Once
it's
listed, you got to create a new ASIN, unfortunately. So all that momentum goes away. That's one of the downfalls, or one of the negative sides of the branded bundling strategy that we teach. We're using the everyday common branded items, but if the manufacturer stops making part of your component, that's why these branded bundles that have like 87 different components to them, I'm like, oh man, that's going to hurt. That's going to be gone soon. That one little bag of peanuts can't be found anymore. And that size, your whole bundle's gone. So keep them simple.
That is one thing that we run into, Jim, excuse me, with coaching clients. They talk to us, REPLENS it's tough in the beginning. I always kind of compare it to childbirth. You guys can't really compare that much, but
never done that one.
You go through these months of uncomfort and fear of what's going to happen, and then you go through this horrible, painful situation, and then all of a sudden you have this child in your arms, and you don't remember any of it. And so people say to us on the podcast, in coaching, they'll say, I heard somebody say they just do this. I said, yeah, because they forgot about the part where we all had to go through childbirth first. I don't remember it either. I said the same things on the podcast. And so where I was going with that is that they also say, well, I just want listings that nobody else can jump on, that, I just want to learn how to do a private listing. Mm-hmm. And my answer to that is, like we have learned, your REPLENS listings, your REPLENS business can support your ability to experiment in that other place. It has its own challenges. It has its own things that you have to overcome. Mm-hmm. It's a completely different animal. So as you can add to your REPLENS business, that's where you start being able to experiment, which we did a lot of last year. Mm-hmm. Experimenting. We used a lot of our capital in experiments, but we learned so much, and now we're ready to start off again.
Yeah, fantastic. And I love that word image, the birth process. Just studying, different mentors and different business leaders that I've read, that's an analogy I've actually heard before of any business has that, or anything worth doing and building has that. It strangely enough, there's something to that whole 9-month thing too, even, and I'm not to dive off into those weeds, but it takes some time and there'll be some uncertainty. And it's going to be a little scary. And then anything worth having, it takes a little bit of time to develop and shape. And most people don't, they don't realize that when they sign up for a process. We like to be very realistic. Like, it's going to take some time, not necessarily 9 months. We've certainly seen those success stories happen much quicker. We've seen people it takes far longer than that. But I love the analogy of, once you finally get that check from Amazon and it's way more than what you've time and effort and energy you spent that month, and it pays for all your inventory and you're in the profit now, you suddenly forget, all those little painful one-time adventures you had to, those confusing points and the times when you were about to throw in the towel. It's all in the past now, and now you're full speed ahead. And I love that you shared that. It's a great analogy.
I love it too. She uses that one a lot with me, and we forget the times, the many, many months that I spent before Robin was in the business, sourcing for hours and hours. And it was before BC, before Click, right?
Before Click.
And I would come out of the office at night and I'd just shake my head. No, I didn't find anything. Well, shoot, then it did. Once it does click, you forget all about the struggle and everything that you went through because, right, you're holding the check. You've got a successful business. You've got something that you can work on instead of work in. So lots of cool stuff there.
I should put you guys in charge of like the meme department. We've got the low, high concept we talk about many times here. Before click, which you guys said it as if it's something that everybody's heard. That's the first I've heard it, but I love it. Before it all clicked, like, oh, it clicked. The world's different now. Like everything's changed. It all clicked. So BC and AC, right? Before click, after.
Yes.
And we can almost identify those people in our community, and they fall very cleanly into one of those two categories. It's I looked for hours yesterday and I didn't find a single ace, and I don't know that this stuff's real. I'm so frustrated seeing all these success stories. Well, they're a BC person, right?
Yes.
Right.
And you got someone else that's like, give me an hour. There's aces everywhere. What are you talking about? Like, okay,
exactly. We use that all the time. Before it clicks, you can't find anything. After it clicks, you can't not find anything. And it really is that clean. And we've seen it over and over and over with clients, with ourselves. And I think maybe it was our coach when we were having coach that said that first. That's because you had coaching the same time as Oscar Matumbo, who had just took off, and we're like, but we didn't do that. And she said, it just hasn't clicked for you yet.
Right.
She was absolutely right.
You know, we all have our demons to overcome. We're all at a different point in the process when we start this business. If you get someone like Oscar who shot out of a cannon, and quite frequently a lot of your podcast guests and who are former or current coaching clients, they're clicking in like week 1 or week 2. That's awesome, but that's not the norm, right? A lot of people,
not by any means.
3 months, 6 months, 9 months, like you're talking about, up to a year. Sometimes we've got a coaching client right now who's been hanging around for years and finally committed to coaching, and now she's doing it, right? And so it's like everyone has their own journey in that space and that time. So
that's right. You know, it's reflective of the time I think that we live in as entrepreneurs who are trying to use the internet creatively, which is perhaps everyone listening to this has that in common. You know, there may not be a whole lot of other things we can say we all have in common, but we have that. We certainly have that in common. We're trying to use the internet creatively to gain income, maybe launch multiple income streams. One of the biggest, you know, to use your word, Brian, demons that we're fighting against is distraction. There's just so many other things, let alone real life, family and obligations and commitments and schedules, but just online, you get on the internet instantly. You got 1,000 things trying to pull you away from whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
Within our own community, within my valid team, there are distractions of so many things that you could look at.
That's right. So to be able to focus in and like, okay, I'm going to commit to just this for as long as it takes. That's a valuable, and I think underappreciated skill set that every one of our successful students have. You know, like you mentioned Oscar Matumbo, great example, spoke at our event. He was doing $30,000 a month within a couple months, and he's rocketed up since then. It was just he and his wife using Keepa and the proven Amazon course, and they had a 7-figure business. He quit his job, she quit her job, all in, right? But something that needs to be pointed out about people who do that is he was laser focused. Got up in the morning, hit it. Till he went to bed that night. You know, he loved on his family, ate meals with them, etc. But he was living, breathing, eating, sleeping this business model with every spare moment he had. And he even said at our event, like, you know, the difference between me and you is I'm out hustling you. That's it. You do an hour's work, I'll do 9 hours of work in that same day. That's the difference, because the model works. I went all in. I believed everything I was taught and I applied it. And if I had a question, I asked it and I went all in. So that's the difference. Some of us can't do that. There's single moms with 3 kids and 2 jobs. The best they can do is an hour or 2 every 3 or 4 days.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You can still do it.
Absolutely. That's the beauty. It's going to take you 9 months to get there. Right? But you'll have the beautiful baby at the end.
But you do
or you can be like Oscar and do it in 2 weeks.
Right. And you can do that too. But you're absolutely right. It could take you 9 months to get there. It could take you 2 years to get there. But where were you 2 years ago? If you'd started then, where would you be now? So, just get there. But we use your analogy all the time. Bolt, don't bounce. Don't get distracted by all the other things that people are doing and the way you can grow it. Let's make sure we have this part that we're focusing on bolt it down, and then we'll go to the next step.
Well, this is to go to off that point, because it's something Brian said earlier, then you just kind of re-mentioned it, Robin. You guys have an automated business now, Brian said. I didn't realize that. I mean, one of the questions I would have had is, how much time are you guys spending putting stuff in boxes and putting tape on those boxes? Is that gone now? Or, because last time I checked in with you and we talked about it, you guys are still doing a fair amount of that yourself. What's reality look like now? You said it's pretty automated. Talking about bolting down processes, it sounds like you've bolted down a lot of pieces of your business that gives you the freedom and flexibility to create content, for example, do a lot of coaching, be a coaching leader in our community. Talk me through what your processes look like now and who's doing what.
So we were pretty well 100% outsourced the last time we spoke, but it took us probably 2.5 years to get there. We started off with a member of our family who lived in a different part of the country, who had access to some regional stores that we didn't have here. And so she became our first sort of shopper, prepper, shipper person, right? Then we doubled that up when she relocated to a different part of the country with another family member. And then we tripled it up recently, fairly recently, with a third member of our family who's doing our private label stuff. So most of my time in the business, and I'll say in our business, is occasionally on a weekend or night if we need to create a new listing or if I need to engage with a vendor or something like that. Robin probably spends, what would you say, hours per week on ordering?
Yeah, maybe 2 to 5 hours max of being involved in ordering and the logistics of things, making sure everybody gets paid and that has what they need. I do try to be available as much as I can to the people we've outsourced to, so that if they have questions, I can help them out. We don't have somebody in that spot, but really most of our time now is spent on coaching. And most of my time is spent on coaching and creating content together. So yeah, that's the stuff we want to do. So we've made room for that.
And there's creativity with the private label in the space.
That's true.
This weekend we were, just brainstorming. What if we did this? What if we did that? We brought home some test products to see what it looks like when it's boxed up. Can we, what does our fulfillment fees look like with that product? What can we throw in here as a value added item? Just, the creative side of the business, just having a little bit of time. Once you've kind of automated and outsourced the REPLENS, so the sourcing, and the prepping, those are the two biggest things, right? Once you get those kind of things done, then you can start spending a little more time being creative. And that's kind of where this whole conversation, what this conversation is about. Creativity in coaching, creativity in content, creativity in business development.
I've often told, I've been saying this for 20 years, well before we were teaching REPLENS as an opportunity, well before Amazon was even part of the picture. It was all eBay back when someone taught me this lesson and I started kind of teaching it out to others. I've been saying the idea of having a fully portable business that fits in your pocket and outsourcing all the daily tasks to others. It's a process of eliminating and the stuff that you don't have to be doing. Where I'm going is it's doing the things that only you can do. Right? If that's where we're heading, I want to do the things that only I can do eventually. You don't start off there day one, but eventually, as you've learned these processes, you bolt them down, you pass them off to somebody else. The one piece you can never give up, and you guys just hit on it. One of, there's a couple different pieces. There's actually 3 that I identified, and I still kind of hold by this. But creativity is one of them. And you just mentioned you guys finally have the freedom to step back and be creative, to do some tests. Like there's no one else that cares as much about your business as you do. You've got to be that kind of creative visionary looking out on the horizon. Okay, we've got our REPLENS, we've got our private label, we've got these other things going on. What can we add to it? What else can we automate? How can we step away from our business, become less valuable in our business so that our business becomes more valuable? So you're always asking yourself those questions, but the 3 were creativity, leadership, and relationships. Those were the 3 that I kind of have latched onto over the years. Is no one else can be in charge of me building new relationships, the mastermind groups you're in, the coaching relationships. And I guarantee you guys, you've had enough coaching students, this may have already happened. One of those students is going to surpass the teacher and bring you into an opportunity that you otherwise never would have had exposure to, right? So you're fostering those relationships with intentionality. You're staying creative. and you're working on your own leadership skills. You're stepping into, you're doing some podcast episodes, you're using your voice, you're on stage. Those are the three things that you can't hand to somebody else until you like sell your business. Those belong to you. Creativity, leadership, relationships. And you guys are stepping into three. And I don't know that I've ever said those things to you before. It's been a long time since I used them. But as I heard you talking about creativity, I'm like, oh yeah, I used to teach on this. Yeah,
that's awesome. The ability. I mean, I totally lost what I was going to say. So you cut that out.
Well, it's just the time freedom that you guys have. The thing about creativity, leadership, and relationships is it takes time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was a point you were making, Brian, is you've carved out a big chunk of time. And there's still a few things you could probably outsource, but you've whittled it down to a few hours a week, running a business that 99% of the people out there would be completely blown away by the numbers of what you guys are seeing. And it's a few hours a week, and you guys have complete flexibility.
Well, and that's, I think I recouped my thought here, which is just in the beginning stages of this business. And this is what we try so hard to get across to our coaching clients is what we call it the intense focus effort, right? This period of intense focus effort. And for us, it was like getting to that 5-figure mark in sales per month. Mm-hmm. And when we get our coaching clients to that, the game changes. Now you move from working in your business to working on your business. And this is what everyone is striving for. And that's where we feel like we are today. We're working on our business, not in our business. Doesn't mean we don't bring home products, and we still get excited about, how is this going to look to the customer and, that kind of stuff. But we'll absolutely chip in to tape boxes if it's needed, but we generally don't. Yeah, I don't have a tape gun here anymore. We still live in an apartment. We're not going to be prepping and packing in boxes here in our place. It's just not.
Yeah.
And
anytime I'm over at our warehouse and I happen to pick up a tape gun, someone inevitably grabs their cell phone and takes a picture of it. Look, Jim has a tape gun. Because for a long time, it's this, even all the way again back to the eBay days from like 15 years ago. We were saying the same things. Like, I want to build a business where I can automate these processes. I'm not the guy doing the $12, $15 an hour work. Someone else is. So I started saying, put down the tape gun.
Yeah.
Put it down. Someone else could. That's a $12 an hour, $10 an hour work. And the sweet old lady across the street would love to interact with your family and have some meaningful work she can do. The single mom, in the evenings after the kids are asleep, help her meet ends meet and provide an opportunity to them and work on those important parts that only you can work on your business. And so, the tape gun is a big joke around here. Actually, even at the event, someone came up to me with a tape gun. I'm like, here, hold this for a second. Like, what? They took a picture of me. You're like, gotcha.
Yeah, that's true. I often get the tape gun taken out of my hand because I'm not as good at it. I can do it if I have to, but the people that we've got doing that do it all the time, and they're good. They're just...
They specialize
so much. Yeah.
That's another lesson. I never know where things are going to drift when I talk to other leaders in our community. But one of the things you learn very early on, and I've seen this play out so many times now, I can see it with great confidence, is once you've hired the right person, they will so quickly surpass you in your ability to do whatever task it is that you hired them for. Because as leaders, like especially type A, control freak type leaders, we think no one will ever be as good at this as I am. No one will ever care as much as I do. It's going to take me so much time to teach someone to be as good at this as I am. And so we don't. And we just keep doing it ourselves, plowing through, dragging so much weight that we don't need to drag. Hand it to somebody else, and consistently you'll be blown away. Yeah. Be it a tape gun or shopping, or, I even heard you just say, Robin, you do some of the shopping still. You're the one whipping out the credit card, making sure everybody gets paid. Like, someone could be doing that better than you are within 6 months, right? And now it's just another bill you pay, and your business can grow even more because you're free to do the creativity, leadership, relationship things that only you can do.
And one of those things that has come up this year is Robin kind of leading the Kickstart Bootcamp in this community.
Yes, that's been tremendous. Let's talk about that. That's a great segue.
I didn't even know this thing existed until
I didn't either. We
were at the conference, and Robin and Matt Thompson were having a conversation, and then boom, it blossomed into what I think, not just coaching in general, but the Kickstart Bootcamp is a perfect fit. You see, Robin is lit. When I get home, sometimes if I'm out running errands and she just got off a meeting with the Kickstart group, she is lit up. absolutely lit up. I mean, this is just, I'm so happy that she's been able to do it.
Well, what is the Kickstart? Talk us through, Robin. I mean, you're the one kind of running that program for our community now. Talk us through who that's for and what it is.
Well, I didn't put it together, but I have been privileged to be able to be managing it for the last few months, and I just love it. You can get it in PAC. It's part of PAC and become part of a group. We do a couple of them every month, and they go for 4 weeks. So during that time, our biggest goal is to get from zero. I don't even have an account with Amazon sometimes, a seller account, get that opened up, buy something, ship it to Amazon FBA warehouses and sell it. So that's what we try to accomplish during that week. It's not build a whole business. It's not figure out what your entity looks like. It's just that simple ability to go through the process one time. Because what I found is if people can get through that process one time, whether they make any money or not, go buy a $10 item, send it into Amazon. If you lose the $10, you do. But what you learn there is all the information about how to prep an item, how to ship an item into FBA, what happens to that item, how you get paid, what are all the steps to there. And once you get through that process one time, it takes away all the fear and uncertainty of that process and gives you the ability, I think, to be able to then plan a business and start doing that, just multiply that over and over and over and start sending in lots of things. But you know what to expect then if you can get through that one time.
That first little win, that first little boost of momentum and validation, proof of concept, right? Like, okay, this works. And maybe that $10 product sells for $14 and the fees and shipping, you end up losing $1 or $2. You're like, wow, okay, here's where I need to pay attention in the future. And I love that example you went through. Yeah, and it's for all new proven Amazon course students, or maybe you've been around a while and you never really put it to work. We hear from people all the time like, yeah, I started and I just never did anything with it. So I was on there with a call just prior to this podcast episode today with you and a group. There's about 50 people going through the session right now, and a good handful of them are on the live call with us. Mm-hmm. And like you said, just going through the basics, giving people that confidence and proving, yeah, this community's here. We're here for you. And it only costs a few dollars. I don't remember. What are we charging for that, Robin? I can't even remember.
I'm going to say $37.
That's what came to mind. 37, 39, something like that. For 4 live sessions with one of our top coaching leaders from our community. Like it's a no-brainer for new students. Reach out to support at silentjimdotcom if it's something that resonates with you, if you're listening to this. And we may have a few different leaders at some point, but for now, Robin's holding down the fort, doing a couple groups at a time, per month. And you're doing a tremendous job. Great feedback from those who've been through it. And yeah, it's a program actually Dahlia came up with, did the first 1 or 2, and then we went looking for a leader. It was a concept she came up with, and then we tapped you, and you've just taken the ball and run with it. So
I really enjoy it, and I am working on some added value. So it's, things like this always are developing. So I've done it for a few months, so now I have some ideas that we're going to put into place, and maybe some guest coaches, and but it's just lots and lots of fun. So I welcome anybody who'd like to join us there.
Yeah, you're going to be quite the celebrity at our next live event too. I would imagine all these new students coming in like, oh, there she is. That's the lady who helped me get started. Yeah. I love those moments at the events. Just for me, it's an indescribable thing to see someone who was once a student, confused, skeptical, now a leader, having people come up to them like, they don't even know who I am. Like, yeah, you're the guy that does a podcast, right? Like, who cares? Robin is the lady that talked me through point A, B, and C and got me through my hurdle and got me shoved in the right direction. And Jim's just that guy that I listen to his podcast sometimes. I love the emerging leaders that I get to see. I feel like I have a front row seat to emerging leaders, and that's so rewarding. And you guys just embody that, if that makes sense.
We feel like that with our coaching clients that come to us for coaching as well. So we understand that. But I must say, we don't know anything that someone hasn't already shared with us, and we're just resharing. We don't have any.
And we can all say that.
Yeah.
A leader, I love leadership quotes and little lessons you can get. And one of them that I latched onto a long time ago was that it's amazing what you can accomplish as a team when everyone stops caring who gets credit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a Ronald Reagan quote, but
Mm-hmm.
that so embodies what we do in this group. It's like, no one needs the spotlight. That's like one of the qualifiers for being a leader around here is if you need a lot of spotlight, this is the wrong group. Go start your home podcast and stand in the middle of the room and tell everybody how awesome you are. That's great. We don't do that here. We all learned because someone taught us, and we all realize too that, and this is maybe an interesting segue for another segment, or maybe it's just a standalone statement, but I've been doing this for 20 plus years. And I'm fully aware of the fact that if you wrote down everything I know, it's nothing compared to the stuff I have no clue about yet. I mean, you could write volumes of the stuff that none of us know yet. It's all being discovered still about this new frontier that we're in. So that's the exciting journey. There's always more to learn, and you only know a tiny fraction of what there is to know. So if you're waiting to know it all, you're never going to get it.
You'll be waiting a long time.
Just don't
You'll be waiting forever.
Give it up. Exactly. I was going to say, like, how many we pivot? It feels like we've pivoted every year in this business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not a complete pivot, not a 180 or anything like that.
Yeah.
But the target that you have on the horizon moves just slightly, and so that you need to move your business and your strategy slightly as well. And you can't get comfortable. It seems like when you just get comfortable, boom, the rules change, the game changes, something changes, supply chain issues or COVID, you can't sell soap, there's, so the child protection certificates, the GTIN,
toys,
something going on, right?
Yeah.
And so you're always like, you need to be on the lookout, or, let people tell you what it is. And we're trying to capture some of that in the other coaching podcast that we've kind of fired up here, is just trying to capture what do people need to be aware of, and what are the common questions that we get as coaches.
Right. What's going on lately?
Yeah.
Hey, we'll get back to the show in just a second, but I've got to tell you about a great sponsor who's just joined us. I'm talking about Seller Board. This is a very popular service used by many Amazon sellers in our community because they understand how important it is, how crucial it is to know your numbers. How do you know how profitable you are? All those fees, the different expenses, the cost of goods sold. How do you track it all? Seller Board is phenomenal. Starting as low as just $15 a month with a 2-month trial on top of that. You really need to check these guys out. Get over to silentjim.com/numbers. Again, silentjim.com/numbers. It's time to know your numbers. It's an accurate profit analytics software tool just for Amazon sellers. They've been doing this since 2017. It is a really cool tool doing some things that I'm unaware of anyone else doing. So the pricing starts at $15. Like I said, get your 2-month trial at silentjim.com/numbers.
You need to be on the lookout, or, let people tell you what it is. And we're trying to capture some of that in the other coaching podcast that we've kind of fired up here, is just trying to capture what do people need to be aware of, and what are the common questions that we get as coaches.
Right. What's going on lately?
Yeah.
Those little course corrections, that is a prerequisite. There's not a lot of prerequisites for having a successful e-commerce business. But if we started writing a list of character traits that you need to have, one of them certainly is flexibility and adaptability. Being able to slightly adjust your course just a few degrees to the left or right, almost constantly. And that's what we'll take that. If that's the only, that I would consider to be one of the major challenges. You've got the extreme time flexibility, the unlimited income potential, the, create as many income streams as you want, bolt down these processes and add to them and grow. As soon as you succeed with anything, one of the opportunities that's always there for you is start teaching other people what it is you just did, and they'll line up to hear about it, right? So the opportunity is so expansive, but you do have to be flexible. The stuff we were teaching, say 3 years ago, is now laughably, in many instances, like irrelevant. It's like, wow, we used to teach, that used to be like books used to be the thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. And we taught all new students, and we still say, sell a few books. That's great. But to fill your house and to fill FBA with books as a model, it's just not scalable. The storage fees have gone up. So yeah, and like you mentioned, Brian, that the toy certificates, toys were an awesome category for a lot of people for a long time. And then the lawyers step in and say, everyone over 12, you can get sued if you don't have a safety certificate on file. And so Amazon forced all the sellers to go find safety certificates for, toys under 12-year-olds, I think it is. And, so that whole category just kind of ground to a halt. And now it's picking up speed again because customer demand is pushing it back in the other direction. But these little pivots, that's the value of this community. And there's 100 other little rules like that. But certainly don't wait till you know all the rules to start playing the game.
Yeah. Yep, yes. Absolutely. One thing I'll just mention here is in the city of Denver, where we live, there was a new law that came into effect in January of this year that said any delivery from a service such as Amazon or even a food delivery service now has this fee of 27 cents for each delivery, right? Within the city. And guess where that goes? That goes to the consumer.
Yeah.
But in the end, it looks like it goes to the third-party seller on FBA because, our fees went up 27 cents for every item that gets sold in the city of Denver. And if you were unaware, you might think, oh, Amazon just keeps raising the fees. And really, this is just the city and other municipalities taking advantage of or trying to compensate themselves for the wear and tear on the roads and all this kind of stuff, trying to make, find some new revenue sources. Right. And that just brings noise in the system that ultimately the consumer has to put the bill for. Yes. And so what I'm not convinced of yet, Jim, is that all this inflation that's been happening over the last 18 months or so, I don't think that's priced in yet. It might be priced in on Wall Street, but it's not priced in for the consumers just yet. And a lot of the third-party sellers have been sucking that up for a while, and that's as those people who either don't want to absorb those costs in their business anymore, or they go out of business, and the only ones left to shop from are the ones who have higher prices. Those consumers are going to see that. But the value that you get, and one of the values that we get living in a metropolitan area like this is with Amazon, is we're like, oh, I sure could use some whatever, or oh, we're out of this. Is we can get 2-hour delivery or even same day delivery for stuff is like, yeah, we can have this there by 5:00. Oh, really? Okay. That's like 3 hours from now. Sure. I'll take it.
Yep.
Right. And the convenience factor is so high that, I don't have to leave the house. I don't have to get in my car. I don't have to spend money on gas. I don't have to do any of that stuff. I can just have it delivered. So even for me, the 27 cents, not a game changer.
Yeah. You're reminding me as you're talking through that of, Jeff Bezos writes some brilliant letters to Amazon investors annually, and I haven't seen one in a while. I don't know if he's even still doing it, but the ones that he did write, if you go back and read them, one of them, they did the math on the time. They put a dollar figure to the amount of time that Amazon has saved Americans.
Oh, wow.
And it was just a brilliantly written, impossible to argue with piece about the hundreds of billions of dollars, time saved, fuel saved. Convenience. There's a reason people pay extra for convenience is because it frees them up to do the things they'd rather be doing versus getting in the car, driving, 20 minutes to buy 3 grocery items and wait in line. Like, okay, you mean I can pay an extra $8 and get that on my porch an hour, 2 hours from now? Okay, sign me up.
Easy.
They're not complaining about the price markup, but it starts to make sense. Okay, I see where Amazon would need some help from some people to keep their shelves stocked with every item anybody could possibly want anywhere in the country at any given time. Like, that's a lot of work, right? That's the opportunity. So it starts to make sense. And I love what you're saying too about the fees. We made this observation again early on. I learned a lot of my lessons about e-commerce back in the eBay days, where eBay would adjust their fees and everybody would freak out and a bunch of people would leave eBay. And those of us who remained and continued selling noticed very quickly that we weren't the ones absorbing the fees. It was our buying customers. You learn a lot about economics when you run your own business. Same with taxes. Like, my taxes go up. Okay, as a business owner, it just means my prices go up. I'm not the one paying. My customers pay these things. And eventually all those prices drift up, like you said, Brian, which, not to get into economics, but as a seller, we really are kind of protected, especially selling physical goods. I love the REPLENS business because physical products of any kind during inflation go up in value. like you can just kind of sit it and forget it for a while. It's going to cost more in a few days. Right? So, and that's kind of what we do as replens sellers is we buy stuff. It's getting harder to find some items, but the stuff that's still out there, your odds of succeeding eventually with a lot of it, as long as it doesn't expire, it's probably going to be worth more money soon.
Yep.
That's the arena we're playing in. So I love this opportunity from many vantage points. And you just kind of nailed down another one as the world kind of goes crazy and things get more expensive. Well, we're the ones moving things from point A to point B that people really want.
Well, just to drive that point home a little bit further, it's the evolution of our society, right? The progression of our society is that we stop talking about trading time for dollars. That's the adage as I was growing up, right? Like, stop trading time for dollars. Let's figure out a way to have passive income, blah, blah, blah. But now what we do, we are so progressed as a society, as a civilization, I guess, that we trade dollars for time. Mm-hmm. That's what Amazon does for us, right? Oh yeah,
totally flipped.
I will pay $8 to have that later today, so I don't have to spend 2.5 hours to go get it, because my time, as you say, like the tape gun and all that kind of stuff, right? My time is worth way more than that.
Yeah, you can actually put a dollar figure to it. For people who've never done it, I encourage it. What was your net take home after all effort, after all expenses and taxes, fees, whatever, paying all your employees? What was your net income? Divide that by how many hours you spent getting that income. That's how much you're worth per hour, assuming you can add more hours and increase that number.
Yeah.
Don't do any task that costs you more time than you'd be willing to pay yourself for doing that task per hour. So, you come up like very quickly, new sellers in this community find themselves $50, $80 per hour of net income. Mm-hmm. That means you shouldn't be cutting your own grass anymore, because there's a neighborhood kid who will do it $20 an hour. Yeah, you pay for that because you've just bought another hour of time that you can grow your business and expand and focus on your area of specialization.
Yeah, and the dollars you can get back, the time you can't, right? Mm-hmm. So exactly. The time is the one thing you can never get back. So you want as much of that as you can get. There's an abundance of money. There's an abundance of currency available in the world.
Overabundance, I would argue, as it gets inflated. But the time,
finite amount of time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Good stuff. Well, where do you guys want to go from here? I know we promised the listeners we'd spend some time in the introduction. I talked about the Keepa Advanced Training. We still want to hit that for sure, and what's coming with that. Is there any other topics that you guys had in mind before we transition in that direction?
Anything from you?
No. I don't think so. I'm going with the flow.
I think it's a good segue. All right. Yeah. So you guys have obviously been very creative with Keepa. You've coached many students to success. I pointed out earlier how that first round of advanced Keepa training was the aha moment for so many sellers in our community. They love that module. It's inside the Proven Amazon course. Well, you guys have been working hard and developed another course. It's all created. It's ready to go. The website is provenamazoncourse.com/Keepa, Keepa. And it has a lot of details there. Folks can go check that out. Huge discount for our listeners and for our Proven Amazon course community. So look for the email about that. But talk us through it. What's behind this? What's included? Maybe give us a couple pointers and tips from the content.
So going back to the trip to Vegas last year, we were just so, grateful and blessed to be there and be sort of prodded by some other leaders in the group to say, hey, there's probably some more there if you want to dig in a little bit. Mm-hmm. And as coaches, we're constantly, like early on in coaching sessions with our clients, opening up Keepa, we're going to the category tree, we're digging into as a new seller, you're approved to sell in this category. So go here and then set some filters on this, and then you can research these ASINs. Robin kind of perfected that process with our clients, and it kind of grew from there, wouldn't you say?
I think so, yeah. So the advanced Keepa sourcing that that's in Pack Now that we've already developed and Brian presented was a little bit too advanced. It's called advanced for a new coaching client. So what I started doing was finding a way to help coaching clients find a list they could source from, but something that was a little simpler and a little faster to get started with. rather than having to understand other sellers and stores and what they are. So I realized that initially new sellers are only approved to sell in certain categories.
Yeah, what are those categories? Not to throw you off, but let's just brainstorm through the basic list real quick for the benefit of folks. Because we mention this all the time in the Facebook group, but for most people, those few basic categories are what?
Arts and crafts, office supplies, home and kitchen, and pet supplies, but not pet food.
Right. Outdoor sports.
Those I found most people are approved for, and that may change by the time this podcast airs. It could change, but I tell people all the time in the Kickstart Bootcamp, that's what they need to know. What category should I start in? Those are the 4 that you should start in because most people are approved in those categories when they first begin.
Yeah, for most products. And you will find restrictions. And I mean, as long as someone's been selling, there's still stuff out there that I'm inexplicably restricted in. Like, look, there's 30 other sellers selling it. Why can't I? Because we said no is the answer. But there's millions of listings you can sell against. So those categories are very useful. And the other thing I always like to say on that point, Robin, before we continue into the Keepa, is that don't get too worked up about the ungating thing, because once you've sold 40 or 50 items, those gates just start falling open. Don't pay somebody or buy a course, or it's going to have sell the things you can sell, and eventually those gates just fall open. So that's those new seller dilemmas that they get worked up about and keeps them up at night. And you look back over your shoulder 6 months later and think, why was I so concerned about that? Everything's ungating for me now. Great job. But so the new sellers, we're struggling a little bit with the advanced Keepa strategies, the way we spelled them out with the first version. So in the second version, we've got a bunch of lower hanging fruit strategies, along with some truly advanced strategies as well, right?
Yeah. So we call it the Keepa strategy stacking. I just love the way that rolls off the tongue. Keepa strategy stacking. It really is taking like some of the fundamentals about how do we use the filters in the advanced in the product finder of Keepa, which is this long page of hundreds of options that you have to
many of which we don't care about at all.
Right. To view or extract information from Keepa about what's on the Amazon platform. And while we were at the conference last year, I used an example of one of our friends who found this listing that had been out of stock for many months, and totally by accident she found it. And in fact, it's Leah.
Leah Maudlin.
Leah Maudlin. She told the story. She's like, I found this thing from the Disney store, and it was like hadn't been in stock for 3-4 months yet. Here it is sitting for sale at the Disney store, and I can buy it by the hundreds. And so I did. And so it just sparked something in my head. I was like, how would I do that in Keepa?
How would I find the other listings like that?
How would I find other listings like that in Keepa? Because trust me, that was the first place my mind went. Like, well, I want to find more listings like that, right? I want to find those listings that are out of stock. And so we brainstormed for a little bit. We sat down in front of Keepa, and we're like, okay, well, if we do this, this, and this, then that should pull these results. And lo and behold, it does. Okay, now we've got this strategy that we can use, and we kind of stack it on top of our other default filters. So in other words, when it was in stock, what was the sales velocity? When it was in stock, what was the sales price? When it was in stock, did Amazon sell on it, or whatever the other things are? How big is it? How many items are in the listing? Those types of things that are kind of our fundamental filters. And then we put some, interesting tweak on top of that. That could be out of stock. And you mentioned something earlier, Jim, that I like to cover in this, which is the brands. So I remember telling Robin when early on, like, oh no, don't even bother sourcing for those things because, we're not approved. One of those things was Starbucks. Oh no, nobody's approved to sell Starbucks.
We didn't think at the time.
Right.
But we were. Who knew?
Eventually the gate just fell down. We didn't have to get ungated.
And maybe not for all.
Right.
A lot of times those bigger brands will say, okay, Amazon, because there's this battle that people don't realize.
Yes.
Between Amazon and big brands. There's plenty of big brands. I love the Nike story. Just to diverse, and there's a great lesson here for all of us. And when it finally clicked, it helps the whole landscape make so much more sense. So Nike came to Amazon at one point and said, hey, guess what? All these third-party resellers on your platform, they're driving us nuts. We want to take control of our brand. We want to sell just between you and I, let's build an agreement, Nike and Amazon. We're going to be the only seller of Nike on the Amazon platform. And we're going to send you whatever inventory you need and just kind of cut out the middleman because they're driving us crazy, both of us. All right, so let's just do this. You might think to yourself, well, that makes a lot of sense. Why wouldn't big brands just cut the middleman out entirely and work straight with Amazon? Makes total sense if you dig an inch deep into the topic. But if you start to expand on this topic, you start to see where neither one of them has a chance at making this work without us. And here's why. And the Nike was a great illustration of this. So Nike sent all its new shoes, all this bright, shiny stuff, and whatever price they wanted to charge. You don't have to worry about the resellers undercutting everything. And they thought this beautiful thing. But guess what happened to Nike sales on Amazon? It plummeted because suddenly there was nowhere near as much selection. The pricing was 100% across the board retail, or exactly where Nike wanted it to be. But people figured out very quickly, wow, I can jump over on eBay or Facebook Marketplace, or I can go to the store and save money on that, right? So there wasn't that demand of the competition. And very quickly, Nike and Amazon both pulled the plug on that agreement and said, okay, open the floodgates again. We want the sellers back. Same thing happens with, you mentioned Starbucks. They may say, hey, here's our 3 or 4 latest, hottest things. We're going to keep resellers off that as best we can, as long as we can, and kind of lock that. But all the other SKUs, just turn them loose, turn the resellers loose. Because what happens otherwise is Nike, Starbucks, all these other big major brands, the inventory that otherwise would be moving cleanly through the system and keeping their brand, from stacking up in corners of dark warehouses, now it's moving again because the third-party resellers are finding that. We're the ones digging in the corners and finding these profitable, underserved ASINs and making sure the inventory is there. So we're doing all the real heavy lifting, dirty work to help those brands really thrive on the platform. So that tug of war, we're really the most powerful force. You'd think Nike's the powerful force or Amazon's the powerful force. No, the third-party resellers, we are the strongest arm in the wrestling match by far. We bring the most to the game. And we stand to benefit as well. But without us, that brand sits in dark, dusty corners of warehouses and gets stuck there because they don't know how to move it from there the way we do.
Right.
So I love that story and that example. I love that you talked about the Starbucks example of being ungated to get us back on track.
Right.
Ungated for Starbucks. Well, maybe not all Starbucks SKUs, but certainly a bunch of them.
Right. So let's say that you just got approved. Oh, I just got ungated in Starbucks. Well, let's strategy stack. Let's put our filters in place. Let's look for these kinds of listings that sell this many times a month per more, or have this sales price, have this many competitors on it, have, all the features that
put all your parameters in
a listing. Right. And then let's add the brand Starbucks. Now we can pull a complete list of just Starbucks listings that meet our criteria. That doesn't mean they're all going to be profitable. I mean, we still have to source them all. We have to go through and say, is this one going to work? Is this one going to work?
But if we put our filters on more of them, at least we won't be looking at a lot that we would never look at otherwise.
Right. We know that every widget that's coming through here is this exact same size. Now we just need to figure out, is it the color that we're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Does this one make profit? Does it not make profit? Can we find a source for it? Can we not find a source for it, right? And then we push it through. But we know that everything that we're looking at already meets all of our other criteria. So it's that kind of approach that we took with this Keepa strategy stacking, which is, set the parameters for the things that we like to sell. Maybe it's small and light. And I don't mean like registered in small and light, but maybe it has a certain size, and weight dimension to it. Maybe it's got an X fulfillment fee on it or less. Maybe it has, whatever those characteristics are. And then let's put something on top of that. Oh, I'm interested in those listings, but maybe there's no FBA sellers. Or I'm interested in those listings, but maybe they have no rank. Right. The no sales ranking is a favorite of a lot of our clients, because so many people are taught how to source things and how to find listings on Amazon by the sales rank. Well, so when you run into a listing that has no sales rank, it's like, I don't know what to do here.
Everybody walks away, or no buy box.
Or there's no buy box. Or there's different ways you can do this. And that's what we do with this. We take all that and then apply this one thing that would normally stop people in their tracks.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And I just want to offer a clarifying point before we dive into some more examples, because some people may say, Keepa, you're talking about all these different categories and search. Go listen to podcast episode 369. Really, that's a foundational episode for this community where you see what it is that Keepa does that no other tool does. So we've got all this data that Amazon makes public to anybody who wants to pay for the API, to use a technical term, the price of the item, the buy box, how many sellers are on it. That's all public information Amazon shares with the whole world. Keepa scrapes other information that Amazon doesn't share with anybody unless you're tracking it over history. And you get all that compiled in, and you can start to search and say things like, I want to see products only that are increasing in price over the past 6 months with a decreasing number of sellers that maybe have at less than 5 FBA sellers. And, you can just put in all these parameters and get your list. Now, that doesn't tell you where to go buy these products. Just be a little work there using these strategies. But you can certainly narrow down very quickly. And that's a lot of the power of Keepa. And many people don't even use it that way. They just look at the graphs, and that's all you need to do. But man, there's some power behind the data that they've collected.
Yeah. And I will tell you that the few things that we've put together here, Keepa does so much more. There will be more content coming because we're learning all the time and developing new strategies of how to use Keepa. This is just barely still hitting the edges there.
Absolutely.
But, so Brian's example of when you suddenly realize that the gate has fallen down for Starbucks, same thing happens with categories. Maybe all of a sudden you can sell beauty now where you couldn't before. Well, the next thing I'm going to want to know is where are all the beauty stuff? I want to know where I can sell there. And so we offer 2 or 3 different strategies for brand, how to find a brand, 2 or 3 different strategies, how to source by category. So each strategy has different ways to do it, and you find what you're comfortable with. But mostly we just want people to learn to be comfortable with Keepa and experiment finding the answers to your own questions. What can you find that nobody else is looking for?
Yeah, that's a great tip. You can't break it. Just click around. You've paid for all this data that they're giving you, and just experiment with it. Have fun with it.
Yeah, right. We say, how do we do that in Keepa? I was using that as an example. How do we do that in Keepa when we were looking for the out of stock listings? And so I reached out to you during production of this content, and I was like, do you mind if we use the ignore the buy box strategy? How do we do that in Keepa? And so that is one of the things, podcast episode
554. My favorite one, use it all the time.
Yeah.
550. That's right. I was going to say, it's 555 or 554. Yeah. 554. I talk about when can I ignore the buy box?
And ignore the buy box. Right. So how do we do that in Keepa? We got a module that shows you exactly how to do that.
Yeah. It becomes a relevant data point. And basically to summarize up the points that I make in as short of possible fashion, go listen to that episode, of course. But if it's dropping 40, 50 times a month, indicating that it's selling hundreds of times a month, I'm not sure I care anymore about how many sellers there are or what the buy box is or if Amazon's on that ASIN or not. All I care about is, am I approved to sell that product? Can I go purchase that product? And I'm going to try to sell one at a profitable price point and see what happens.
We run into listings like that where, as it is, it's profitable, but it just misses our cut. Let's say, or maybe it misses it, it's still profitable, but it misses it by a ways. Let's say I was looking at this product with a coaching client the other day. It was 22% ROI. That doesn't make my cut normally, but because it sells so fast, I can price that up $3 or $4, and now I'm making above my target, and I know I'll sell it, or I'll test it anyway.
Test.
Got to test it. Make sure we test it. But
test it small first, but if it sells a couple times a month, that's a winner. I'll keep restocking that. I don't care that there's 30 other sellers and Amazon's on the listing too. I'm that, you guys live there in Denver and you guys needed one in 2 hours. And I was the closest guy in the warehouse with my widget sitting there, and you guys snagged it and paid. There was 9 other people priced cheaper than me, but I was the only one in that Denver warehouse near you. So I just made $8 on that sale, and you guys are happy because you got it fast. Once you understand how Amazon works, and instead of seeing it as one store that we all go to, down the street for all of us. No, United States is a big place. There's a lot of warehouses, and that inventory is really spread out. And a lot of times Amazon doesn't spread its inventory out very well. So sure, Amazon may have 3,000 units, but 1,500 of them are in LA and 1,500 of them are in New York. So I'm the guy with 1 unit competing with Amazon sitting in a Denver warehouse, and Brian and Robin need it today. I'm going to win that sale against Amazon at a higher price.
Yep.
So those are the aha moments that suddenly you realize, I don't have to be the lowest price. I don't have to be the guy with the most inventory to win a steady number of sales against these underserved listings.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be an eye opener course for a lot of people. I think it's going to really, just like the advanced Keepa round one, it helped a lot of folks. I think this is going to do even more good. It's going to be even more good fuel for our customers and students. It's provenamazoncourse.com/Keepa. provenamazoncourse.com/Keepa. Yeah, go ahead, Robin.
Add one point to what you're saying, that is absolutely true. You do not have to be, you don't have to be the featured price in order to get those sales. You also don't have to have all the sales. If it sells 200 times a month, you don't have to stock 200 at a time. You're just going to sell a few of those. You sell a few of those at your price. People get a little overwhelmed sometimes when they realize, it sells 200 times a month, so I've got to replenish 200 times every month. And that's absolutely not true. Everybody's going to share in that stocking of that
it's
item.
Teamwork. It's part of that teamwork that, Amazon's not capable of keeping their shelves stocked at the right level, nor is the brand.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have way too much or not enough. That's where we come in. And if we've kind of crowdsourced the risk of keeping the shelves stocked too low or too high. So you guys send in 2 units, I send in 2 units, 10 or 12 other sellers send in 2 or 3 units. And then there's that one crazy dude that sent in 800 units and they're all sitting in one warehouse somewhere. It's like, okay, great. Do your thing, man. Obviously you're not a replens seller. When I see someone with, more than a month's worth of inventory on any given ASIN, because you can see the inventory levels, with different tools and how many they have in stock. I'm thinking, man, that guy could sure use some exposure to our community. Poor guy went all in on that ASIN, and he could, any number of things could go wrong. You guys covered that on a podcast episode you did recently. I've heard it. I don't know if the listeners have yet at this point or not, but just the dangers and all the ways it can go wrong going too deep. What do you do once you've gone too deep? It was a great episode. But we know in this community, I'm never going to have more than a month's worth of anything on the shelf as a general rule.
Yep. Nope, that's good. So that pretty much is a good summary of what that is. It's just, how do you do that in Keepa?
We're anxious to see the feedback of what, we're hoping that it helps people be a little braver and be a little more analytical about how they're finding ASINs and just offer another way. There's so many ways.
Yeah, I just want to brag on you guys as well for, and I know there's going to be a good number of people who hear this episode and think, wow, I would love to be able to work with those guys. Well, you can. That's what our coaching program is. There's a link at Jim Cockrum Coaching, or go to silentjimdotcom to get a straight link to our coaching program. Have a conversation with a consultant and say, hey, I want those guys. Are you guys still taking on coaches? I know your schedules. Are you okay? Because I never know. Different coaches are like, they tap out from time to time and like, all right, I can't take any more right now. I've got my limit.
And I don't see that happening in the near future. I just enjoy it so much. I know Brian does too, as much as he doesn't have as much time as I do to do it, but it is just, like Brian said, it lights me up. It does. Makes me happy.
And this is how the other podcast idea was born. It's like, we come out of a coaching session and then we're chatting for an hour and a half about what that was. And then we're like, well, wait, do you hear this question? And then we chat about that for another hour and a half.
I answer that this way. Yeah. Oh, well, I didn't think of that.
Right.
That's a good way to put that.
So I love nothing more as the host of this show, which, we continue to gain new ground, and it's one of the most listened to shows in all of e-commerce. And to have leaders who step up and say, hey, some of those great conversations, the stories that we're hearing from our students, let's just capture those conversations and make them episodes. That's tremendous. Everybody wins. It's less lifting I have to do. Gets you guys into the spotlight more. Great content from real coaching students. I don't do much of the coaching. I'm kind of I'm coaching the coaches, if you will. And so I can start to lose touch sometimes with those day-to-day challenges that students are seeing. So I love that you guys are capturing episodes now, and we'll be seeing your face and name more as time allows, as you guys kind of help host some episodes. So excited to see those coming.
All goes to our core mission, which is helping people be successful with this. Like, we're just passionate about that. So
yeah,
we had a mission last year to help 10 people get to $10,000 a month in sales, and we accomplished that. So we're working on
that's awesome.
Our new goal for this year.
Yeah, I love it, and that's a realistic goal, and you guys nailed it. I hear sometimes leaders in the e-commerce arena, like, I want to help 1 million people get to $1 million. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, you have 8 listeners on your YouTube channel. Like, no, but realistically here, like, we're helping a lot of people, but we're still very realistic that, it's one person at a time. It's one commitment at a time. It's one family at a time. And you guys have just been slowly climbing that ladder of truly influencing and helping people. And I love what you just said too. I don't know if you realize it, but I correct people on our team when they say they want to help people. I don't allow them to say that phrase because that's not enough. I often use the analogy and say, if we want to help people, if you were serious about that, all you have to do is go empty your bank account, turn it all into $100 bills, walk down the street randomly and hand them out till you're broke. You will have helped people that day.
Yeah.
Will you have helped people succeed? Absolutely not. That requires time, energy, relationship, accountability, reciprocity, give and take, right? Like that's a much bigger commitment to help people succeed. And that's what we do here. We don't just help people. That's great. It's virtuous to help people. Sure, go for it. But helping them succeed, turning them into givers themselves, who can actually turn around and share what you poured into them with as many others. Like that person you gave the $100 bill to and walked away, how many more people can they bless with $100 that day? Well, one, maybe, if they're generous. But if you help them succeed, now you've created another giver, another person. And that's the viral effect of what we do here. And so I love to hear you saying it the way you did, Brian, helping people succeed. That's our core mission around here. So, well, time well spent. Anything else on you guys' minds before we start to wrap this one up? I think it was a really good episode today.
Yeah,
that covers everything.
Yeah, it's
thanks
good.
for checking in, Jim. We're just having a great time and really honored to be able to be part of the community and considered leaders of the community.
No, you absolutely are. I mean, if I'm a leader here, you guys are, because once you understand that core mission of helping people succeed, you can jump into leadership anytime you want around here. Help people succeed, man. That's what we do. So, well, God bless you guys. Great hanging out with you. Have a great week. And I'm just going to close out talking to the listeners for just a moment and say, if you enjoyed this episode, this was a tiny taste of what this program is all about. You can scroll back in time, listen to 15 or 20 episodes if you're new around here, and you'll see multiple interviews with successful students, maybe some of Brian and Robin's students who have been interviewed on this program, who are building great businesses. And we don't just bring you the bright, shiny, jewels of our community. Sometimes you'll see people who are only a few weeks in and they're struggling. And we talk to them about the challenges they're experiencing and the wins that they're having. But we believe in this opportunity. We believe in this community. We believe in the strategies that we use to teach people how to succeed using the internet creatively. So on behalf of the great guests I had today, Brian and Robin, thank you once again, guys. You did great.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Jim.
Thank you so much. And the whole community that helps make this podcast episode possible. We will have another great episode for you very soon. God bless all the business building warriors. Talk to you then.
Hey, thanks for hanging out today. Before I let you go, one short reminder. We are so grateful to our new sponsor to this program, Seller Board. If you haven't checked them out yet, get over to silentjimdotcom/numbers. This is the software that tells you if you're profitable or not. It helps you track all of your expenses, your KPIs, sales, refunds, advertising costs, all of it. Profit, loss. This is tremendous software that fills a gap in the marketplace. Many successful sellers in our community are using this tool to help them know which of their products are profitable and which ones aren't. You'll love Seller Board. For just $15 a month starting, you can really dial in and know how your business is doing. silentjim.com/numbers. Talk to you next time.